you will see a red dot to let you know that the recording is on right now. And it is 3 o'clock, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start and welcome everyone to our webinar on gamification. It is very exciting to have everyone here today, especially that we have a special guest presenter, Summer from Literacy Link South Central. Thank you, Summer, for joining us. We will also have, perfect. We will also have Maria Moriarty from AlphaPlus participating in the session today. So there's two of us from AlphaPlus and Summer from London joining us today. So it is a bit crowded organizer group. So what we decided to do to make sure that your connection stays works well, we thought it would be good for us not to turn on the microphones and make sure that the bandwidth is working okay. And that way we should avoid any issues with the connection, and hopefully you will be able to hear us as well as we can be heard. I just want to introduce myself and then Maria and Summer to you and give you a few webinar housekeeping tips. It's a bit different webinar for me because usually I'm the one presenting and doing everything. Today, I'm just stepping back and I'm the tech support, and Maria and Summer will be taking you through all the content. But I just wanted to go over some of the tips when it comes to using the GoToWebinar. Some of you are very familiar with it. Some of you may be fairly new. So we just wanted to do a few tips for you and clarify that in the main section of the screen, you're going to see slides and information that Summer will be sharing with you. And on the right side, you will have a control panel. The screen capture you see is taken with my Mac, which basically means it may be slightly different than what you can see if you're using Windows. But the sections will be very similar. So you will have a list of attendees. You will have the audio section, and you will also have questions or chat box where you'll be able to chat. There's also a section with handouts where we included handouts for you, which will be the slides we are sharing and some of the other resources that Summer is going to discuss during the presentation. I also want to highlight and clarify that, remind you that we are recording the session so that way you can listen to it afterwards. Your microphones are muted, so we will not be able to hear you. So you can chat and do whatever you're doing when we are presenting. And the last information I wanted to share is that every time you have a question or comment or feedback, please feel free to use the question box or chat box if you're using Windows to let us know what you want to say. That way I will be monitoring those questions and if necessary answering them, or I will be bringing them forward to Summer to discuss as we go. And as a next thing, I'm going to quickly just introduce myself and Maria to you. We are the hosts from AlphaPlus. Maria has been working with me, and I have been working with Maria for a long, long time. I often organize the webinars, so I'm a bit more familiar with the tools. Maria joins me occasionally and sometimes also runs the webinars, but she's always connecting with Summer when it comes to gamification. So we thought it would be a really good idea to have Maria and Summer talk about this topic during this session. And Maria, I'm going to hand it over to you just to introduce yourself as well. So don't forget to unmute your microphone.
Hello, everybody. This is Maria Moriarty. When Monica says we've been working together for a long time, she really means a very long time. And today we're just super excited to have this opportunity to learn about gamification, what it is, how it works, and why it's a fabulous idea. And it's my pleasure today to introduce and welcome our guest presenter, Summer Burton, who is the project manager at Literacy Link South Central. We are actually thrilled, let me rephrase that, to have this opportunity to learn from Summer. Summer is going to introduce us to this very exciting concept of gamification in adult literacy. And it's based on research conducted by Literacy Link South Central and their partners, the Maker Bus, during a recent job creation partnership project, which was funded by the Ministry of Training, Colleges and Universities. So again, it's my pleasure to introduce Summer Burton. So over to you, Summer.
Thank you so much, Maria. Before we dive into today's topic of gamification, I wanted to give you just a little overview of what we're going to be discussing. We're going to start with a short getting to know you activity, and then we're going to talk about what gamification actually is and the core drives of gaming. We're going to look at the psychology of gamers, the non-gaming elements that are key to successful gamification, and how the traits that most gamers show can be helpful in the classroom. We're also going to look at when gamification goes wrong, so we can avoid some common pitfalls, and then look at some examples of it being used successfully in the realm of adult literacy. We'll end today's webinar getting you ready to try gamification for yourself, looking at some tips and tricks to keep in mind, and resources to support you as you go. We'll also provide a Q&A session at the end, so as Monica said at the beginning, please be sure to type your questions into the chat field on your GoToWebinar control panel as we go. The team at AlphaPlus will be keeping track of them and then sharing them with me at the end. So to get us started, I have a couple of questions for you, just to get a sense of who our attendees are and what my playground looks like today as a result. First, I'd like to know if you're a gamer. Remember that gaming can refer to many different things, from World of Warcraft to Candy Crush, and it isn't just relegated to games with screens. We don't want to forget tabletop games like Clue and Yahtzee, and card games like Euchre. Monica, can you launch that poll for us, please?
I just did.
Perfect.
So we're just going to wait a few minutes for everyone to fill out the poll to let us know where do you find yourself on the spectrum of the questions. Please remember that you can select all that apply. And as we wrap up everything, we are going to close the poll and share with you the results. So just a few more seconds. We have 77% of you who voted. If we have somebody who still didn't have a chance, please try to vote if you can. Almost there. Perfect. I'm going to close the poll and I'm going to share the results with you. And I'm going to read them out just to make sure that everybody can see them if it doesn't show on the screen properly. So the question was, are you a gamer? And 1% play screen-based games a little, 31% play games a lot, 62% play tabletop and or card games a little, 23% play tabletop and card games a lot, and 15% do not play games. Okay, Summer, I'm going to hide this poll. What's next?
Perfect, thank you. Okay, next I'd like you to take a moment to think about why you enjoy playing the games you do play. So what keeps you coming back to play again? Monica, can you launch that second poll for us?
Done.
Perfect.
Okay, we have 31% of you who voted, so we're just going to wait a few more minutes again and see what makes you want to play the games. 100% of you voted, so we're going to close the poll and share the results. And again, I'm going to read them out for you. I like the immersive experience of the gaming world. That's 31% votes. I like the fact that each time I play, I get better at the games, 46%. It's a great way to connect with friends and family, 77%. And I like the competition and beating someone else with my games, 31%.
Perfect. All right, so finally, I'd like to know whether you have heard of or have experience with gamification. Last question.
Okay, and you're going to launch it. There may be a bit of a delay for you by the time you launch everything, so just be patient. It should pop up on your screen, and then you will be able to vote. Almost there. I think we have one more person who didn't vote yet. One more vote. Okay, I'm going to close the poll now. Thank you everyone for voting again. And I'm going to share the results with you. Here we go. What is your understanding of comfort with gamification? I understand and use gamification techniques 0%. I'm familiar with the gamification but want to learn more 62%. I have heard the word but I don't know what it means 15%. And this is the first time I'm actually hearing about it 23%. Over to you,
All
Summer.
right. Perfect. All right, so as we can see, most of the folks joining us today are game players of some sort. And that's pretty reflective of North American society as a whole. According to the Entertainment Software Association of Canada, 58% of Canadians are electronic gamers through game consoles, computers, or social media. Statistics are harder to find for tabletop and card gamers, but I think the resurgence of small hobby, toy, and game stores and the emerging trend in board game cafes is a pretty good indication that non-electronic games are alive and well. There's even a worldwide event to celebrate and practice good old-fashioned board games. It's called International Tabletop Day, and it's held every April, celebrated in 80 countries with around 3,000 events across the globe. I'm going to check back in on question 2 in a bit, but I will mention that question 3 shows that our common understanding of gamification is mixed. So I'm going to start out by talking a bit about gamification so we can all be on the same page. At its core, gamification is the act of applying game design elements and motivations to non-game settings in order to increase engagement, change behavior, or achieve a specific desired result. One quote I really like about gamification came from Assistant Professor Brian Arnold of the National University in California, who said that with gamification, learning is not made into a game. The features of games which entice players to engage are used to draw in learners. These game design elements, or enticing features, may include an opportunity to explore, built-in competition, clear goals, an ability to measure progress towards those goals, and a place to try and fail without lasting consequences. So what makes people want to play games anyway? When we're playing games, we often find ourselves feeling a sense of camaraderie with those we're playing with, or against, a rush of excitement when we accomplish a task, a general sense of engagement and fun. So why are we feeling these things? And what keeps us coming back for more? Gamification researchers like UK Chow have examined the elements of games that give us those feelings. And Chow's work breaks it down into 8 core drives of gaming. Each of the drives is listed on your screen, but I'll put them into gamer language as we go. The first is epic meaning and calling. In other words, what makes me want to participate in this game? Why is it important to me? Next is development and accomplishment. How do I know I'm progressing while I play? Do I get to level up, earn badges, points, or rewards? Then we have empowerment and creativity. Can I do things over again in a new way to see if that improves my game? Next is ownership and possession. This game, this journey is mine, and I care if it's successful. I am not going to let that invading army take my castle. Then we have social influence and relatedness. There's a feeling of community with those I'm playing with, and a great opportunity for me to measure my skills against theirs too. We also have scarcity and impatience. If something in the game is limited, either in number available or in the time period you can get it, I'll work harder and longer for it as a result. Then there's unpredictability and curiosity. That's the, whoa, I didn't expect that moment. And now I want to stick around to see what will happen next. Finally, there's loss and avoidance. The feeling that if I don't keep playing or check in on my game every day, I'm going to miss out on something. Understanding the core drives of gaming gives us some great tools to motivate people to play. But gamification is not a one-size-fits-all solution. To design a meaningful gamified experience, You need to understand your individual audience and what drives them specifically. One method of learning about your audience from a gamification perspective is through testing their gamer psychology. There are several different online multiple-choice assessments that analyze the user's instincts and choices against 4 gamer types with different learning styles. Many gamification experts and practitioners use the Bartle test of gamer psychology, but it's just one of several available online. Knowing which gamer type your audience most closely associates with can help you design gamified activities that resonate with the learners you're trying to reach. We'll use the Bartle test as our primary example. It weighs the learners into the categories of explorer, achiever, socializer, and killer. Learners who score high in the explorer category are gamers that like the freedom to wander and discover things about the elements of the game through experimentation. They like to figure out how things work and are probably the person you want on your Friday night trivia team. Those who score high in the achievers category will be pretty happy to hear that, because they're point-oriented gamers who enjoy being at the top of the leaderboard or who want to be rewarded for being the first to finish something. Goal-oriented, these learners may not see the value in a game unless there is a clearly defined winner, and it can be them. Learners with high socializer scores are motivated by meaningful interaction and relationships, and often view gaming as a way to make or connect with friends. They are the networkers in our midst and seek out other like-minded gamers to work together to achieve more than they could alone. And they probably want to stay the heck away from those who score high in the killer category. While achievers take pleasure in the act of winning, killers tend to enjoy the act of defeating an opponent more than the act of winning itself. Because winning is often secondary to the game, killers are not as discouraged by failure and tend to be risk takers as a result. Other quizzes use the same input pattern, but change the name of the categories. So you might end up with innovators, strategists, effectors, and aces in the end. But the philosophy is much the same. So, based on my super scientific pregame assessment, I now know that the participants in today's webinar are mostly socializers. So, I'll be doing my best to keep you learning, but give you time to connect with one another over the Q&A at the end. What we can tell through looking at gamer psychology and the 8 core drives of gaming is that one size does not always fit all. Not every game element will work for every learner, nor can or should they all be incorporated into every learning activity. Really, while points and rewards are nice, people are motivated by the sense of fulfillment and achievement gained when challenges are overcome, and because they find meaning in the gameplay. With that in mind, there are 3 key ingredients that must accompany any gamified activity for it to be successful. Meaning. In other words, making sure the experience or activity connects with learners by speaking to their interests, passions, goals, and curiosity. As we all know from working with adult learners, those things change from person to person, and that's part of why knowing your audience is such a huge piece of successful gamification. Gamified activities don't work unless learners see or connect with the meaning behind the activity itself. Mastery. For a learner to master something, they recognize that their skills are growing in a meaningful and hard-earned way. Simply rewarding learners with points based on their progress isn't enough. They need to feel as if they've really earned them. Activities must be challenging, yet obtainable. Gamified activities are an excellent playground for trial and error in an environment that feels safe. Mastery after repeated attempts is extremely rewarding. And autonomy. Ultimately, this happens when a learner is compelled to continue an activity because they want to, not because they've been told to. This sense of autonomy can flow from the first 2 ingredients. if the activity connects with learners in a meaningful way and they enjoy the sense of mastery they receive from doing it, they'll be compelled to continue learning. And just imagine if they could be having fun at the same time. Education is serious business, so why would we even want to encourage a gaming mindset in the classroom? Well, just look at the commitment being shown by the average gamer who is just one level away from an epic win in the game of their choice. The passion, the dedication, drive. Who wouldn't want that from their learners? Gaming traits include problem solving, collaboration skills, focus, continual skill development. And perhaps most importantly, gamers fail all the time. Okay, so maybe a piece gets thrown across the room or the controller gets slammed down on a table out of frustration. But you know what happens next? The gamer thinks, all right, well now I know that didn't work. And they pick that controller back up and try again, learning from what went wrong the last time so that they achieve a different and hopefully better outcome this time. Think back to what I said earlier about mastery. People don't get excited about mastering an element of a game that's really easy. Overcoming the challenge is what gives the gamer a sense of pride and accomplishment in their work. Harnessed in an educational setting, these are hugely powerful traits for success. In the unique environment of adult literacy, I would argue that there are even greater benefits. Consider using gaming elements as a motivational tool to allow adult literacy learners to gain confidence just by doing something a little better than they did it the last time, even if they aren't successful. Replacing the measuring stick. Learners can recognize and celebrate success by learning from their mistakes and making small improvements, rather than by comparing their skills to other people in their lives, which could be disheartening, or even to others in their learning environment who may be at different literacy levels. As the use of gamification grows in fields like marketing, healthcare, and education, we have to look at the ways it doesn't work, as well as the ways it does. With its growing popularity as a tool, a lot of people are adding concepts of gamification to their projects or programs. It doesn't actually mean it's being done well, though. As I said earlier, adding game elements to something that your target audience doesn't connect with isn't going to suddenly make it work. Successful gamification strategies must go beyond adding points, levels, and rewards. Otherwise, a blank screen that invites the user to repetitively click a single button to earn points would be the most exciting and popular game in the entire world. Some of the most common mistakes people make when trying to incorporate gamification into a learning environment include misinterpreting what motivates their audience. As an example, just because competition drives some gamers doesn't mean it drives everyone. In fact, adding a ranking chart to compare the scores of a room full of people who feel self-conscious about their skills and abilities can motivate them in a very different way, right out the door. Adding badges, levels, or point values on everything. Don't get me wrong, these tools can be very motivating, but rewarding users for easily obtained tasks make the points seem arbitrary or even condescending. I've never met a learner who will invest time and energy in their work if they feel they're being pandered to. Have you? Adding out-of-context game elements. At the beginning of this webinar, I mentioned that gamification is about the process of engaging people in learning, using the same things that engage them in games, not necessarily turning the learning itself into a game. While there are lots of great examples of learning games, simply making a learning activity into a game is not actually gamification. And out of context, it can be downright confusing. If we're talking about what goes wrong when gamification is done poorly, there must be a flip side to the coin, right? We have a host of examples of gamification in the marketing, healthcare, children's education, and adult education fields. Since the majority of us work with adult literacy learners, I'll focus on some interesting examples of gamification in action in a literacy environment. The Brant Skills Center developed 2 tablet applications designed to help learners improve their basic literacy skills. The apps, each of which used a different game element, focused on 2 problem areas identified by the staff and learners at the Brant Skills Center: homophones and punctuation. The homophone app focused on tricky words. On the title screen, users are given the option to select one of 6 homophones they'd like to learn more about. As users correctly complete exercises related to the word they choose, they're awarded a green checkmark. Once all 5 achievable available exercises for the word are completed, the user receives a gold checkmark next to the word, showing their ultimate mastery of that one. The punctuation app was designed to teach how and when to use periods, quotation marks, and question marks in a sentence. Users are presented with a number of sentences and different punctuation options, and are given a limited time to drag and drop the appropriate punctuation into each sentence until the correct placement is found. By limiting the amount of time users have to complete each section, this app made the task of punctuating sentences more challenging and more engaging. Both apps were play-tested by learners, and while the feedback on each was positive, it was interesting to note the differences in how learners interacted with one another while using them. When using the homophone app, learners compared scores and competed to see who could earn a gold checkmark first. When using the punctuation app, the overall vibe in the classroom intensified, and instead of interacting with one another, learners blocked out external stimuli to instead focus on beating the clock as they punctuated their sentences.
Summer, it's Maria at AlphaPlus. I just wanted to say a couple of things about that last slide and the successful gaming trait slide. I hope that's okay with you.
Absolutely, go ahead.
I was particularly taken, I mean, these 2 apps, I know I'm going to try to get them both and play with them because they look like fun. And I could use real help with my punctuation, that's for sure. But the successful gaming traits that Summer has just described to us, that is the problem-solving, collaboration skills, intense focus, continual skill development, ability to fail, learn from that failure and try again. These really resonate with me. I've been doing some work lately around the concept of self-efficacy. That is my belief in my ability to succeed or to learn in a particular domain or context. And I've been researching self-efficacy, particularly in relation to how adult literacy students can be supported to build computer self-efficacy, to enable them to develop the digital skills they will need as they transition, particularly to post-secondary education and to employment. And I see in gamification, and Summer has made it very clear, many of the same traits that are important in building self-efficacy. So I'm very taken with the idea that gamification can not only bolster motivation and persistence, but it also has the potential to help students to develop the all-important belief that they can deal with new and ever-changing interfaces and digital tools, and the kinds of glitches and frustrations that we confront when we use technology in any domain for learning or at work. So I wanted to say thank you again, Summer, because it seems to me that this is a very rich area for those of us in adult literacy to explore.
Thanks so much. All right, so for another good example, we have the Thames Valley District School Board's Gateway to Learning program, who developed a cutting-edge training opportunity for their students to learn traditional literacy concepts in a really non-traditional way. The course is called Arducopter and includes elements of math, technology, geography, and hands-on learning, all used as participants build a remote-controlled quadcopter from scratch and send it on actual test flights. The The course takes learners who are highly motivated by the concept of both hands-on building and the cool factor of the drone helicopter through exercises about their own learning style, workshop safety, technical terminology, diverse mathematical concepts. Lessons bounce back and forth from research-based to hands-on building to exercise-based, keeping learners active and engaged in each component of the course in small chunks. And best of all, they see their progress being built, bit by bit, as they assemble their class quadcopter together. What I think is particularly cool about this course is the embedded mathematical concepts. If you were to say to most adult learners, "Hey, do you want to spend a couple of hours learning about calculating area and perimeter?" I suspect you'll get a pretty lukewarm response. Ask some of those same learners, "Hey, do you want to spend a couple of hours learning how to fly a drone quadcopter?" We'll need to know how to calculate area and perimeter to program that flight software. You in? I think you'll get a pretty different response. Next up, Literacy Link South Central, in partnership with a local organization that was mentioned earlier called the Maker Bus, developed a set of 12 modules to help expose adult literacy learners to new and innovative technology. Focused on technology that's both practical and inspiring, these Maker modules are structured to allow learners to experiment and play in the safety of the Maker Bus's mobile classroom. Learners make the decision about which modules appeal to them the most by voting for their top 3 choices. Then, before the actual activities begin, they work through pre-visit activities to lay the groundwork for some of the technology that will be introduced. There's also a post-visit activity for each module that allows learners to discuss the implications of the technology they experienced. While there's not a level or a badge in sight, these interactive modules provide an opportunity for hands-on learning and experimentation with technology that most literacy learners wouldn't normally have access to, including 3D scanners and printers, podcasting hardware and software, macro photography, and more. Learners can even play the piano using bananas and tinfoil during one of the modules, all while learning about conductive and non-conductive materials. The last example I want to share is actually a sneak peek at a course still under development. The first stages are undergoing piloting right now. Targeting male youth aged 19 to 29 who were not in education, employment, or training, Literacy Link's Innovate project is a place-based learning initiative bringing literacy program to basketball courts using a trio of really cool tools. At the heart of the program is the 9450 Smart Sensor basketball. It's a basketball that looks and feels just like any other, but has sensors embedded within it that can measure any force applied to the ball: spin, acceleration, dribble speed, and more. Used with the 9450 app and the Smart Net, players and facilitators get a full 360-degree view of what's happening with the ball and the player that moves it. The modules that have been designed to accompany this trio of tools take learners not only through basketball drills to improve their skill, but gives them an opportunity to learn and apply mathematical concepts as they calculate angles and speeds and track their individual and squad stats. As their skills and knowledge increase, learners progress through levels, including rookie, starter, all-star, MVP, and more. Not only does this project use some pretty fascinating technology, but it demonstrates a really neat take on one of the keys of successful gamification. Rather than taking existing curriculum and adding gaming elements that they hoped would appeal to the intended audience, the team looked at what was already a driving force in these young men's lives, and then created curriculum around it. They were avid basketball players who, while not committed to working or attending school, were committed to practicing their basketball skills on a very regular basis. So why not meet them where they're at? Gamification in education must enrich the learning process through storytelling, inventive challenges, and fun. We don't need reused marketing gimmicks, but imaginative curriculum designers with an understanding of teaching, ready to find innovative ways of making educational subjects just as exciting and engaging as their learners' favorite games are. Is that you? If so, you're probably pretty excited right now and ready to go do some playing of your own. You understand that adult literacy learners have varying concerns and different reasons for engaging in learning than younger students, and you're ready to help renew their motivation and engagement through gamification. You are ready for this challenge. And here are some tips to make your experience a successful one. Start with a pre-game assessment to find out more about your learners and what motivates them. Some adult learners may be skeptical about the idea of games as a form of education, thinking of them as inherently childish. Please remember that at its heart, gamification is about applying the game design elements and motivations that work for your learner into your curriculum. It's not an all-or-nothing proposition, so use the elements that work for your audience. But don't forget to play a little yourself. Try adding an element of gamification that you are not sure about. It might surprise you. Connect the learners with the ultimate meaning behind the activity. Remember that adult learners are usually engaged in education for a very specific reason. So consider how your gamified activity reflects the learner's goal path and clearly outline that connection with your participants. Get their input and feedback and let them be part of the planning process for these activities. That sense of teamwork and ownership, combined with an understanding of how the skills they're developing will get them closer to their personal goals, will provide a sense of deep meaning to the activity. Build feedback mechanisms into your activity that let the learner know how they're doing, so they can track their progress and see their skills developing. Many learners gain confidence and become more willing to try when they see that they're making progress and have mastered at least some of the skills they're trying to develop. Give learners room to try and fail without consequences. In most of the games we play, a huge piece of our skill development comes from making mistakes and learning from them so we do better next time. Our learners need that same opportunity. With these tips and some of the other resources I'm about to mention in your back pocket, you're ready to play. Much of the information that I've shared with you today is available in our report, Gamification and Adult Literacy, investigating the history, impact, and execution of gamification principles in adult education. Whew, it's a mouthful. To see what we've discussed in action in a downloadable activity ready for use in your classrooms, help yourself to the document called Using Gamification Techniques to Increase Learner Comfort with Typing. And for some quick and easy reminders to keep in mind while you work, don't forget to look over the summary document called Gamification Tips for Educators. All these documents and many more are available on the Literacy Link South Central website using the link shown on your screen. There are truly hundreds of resources available online to help you learn more about gamification. The bibliography of the report I mentioned to you on the last slide has many great reference documents, and here are two more for you. Both are online warehouses full of information about gamification. The first is a wiki hosted by Badgeville, and it's a great resource for educators interested in adding gamification techniques to their classroom exercises. The second is the online bibliography posted by the Gamification Research Network. Beware, there is so much interesting information available that you should probably use the washroom and grab a fresh cup of coffee before you dive in. And with that, we're going to bring the formal portion of today's Tech Tuesday webinar to a close. I'll be sticking around for a Q&A, but I think either Monica or Maria has a few things they want to share with you first.
Thank you, Summer. I'm not sure how many of you, but when I was sitting here listening to what Summer was saying, I was continuously just nodding my head making notes of what I want to try out and explore after the webinar. And we hope to wrap up a bit earlier today to give you some time to explore some of the links we are sharing with you, to do the feedback at the end of the session, and also to ask some of the questions. So just a quick reminder that there will be a feedback form for you to fill out. I'm going to put a link to it in the chat box, so you will be able to receive it directly on your screen and just click on it. And I'm going to hand it over to Maria very soon. Before I do that, I just want to let you know that there's many more webinars coming up. All of them are very exciting. The one coming up in December will be talking about a tool that you may want to use for creating designs and images called Canva. There's also a webinar on iPads in January, and many, many more coming up in the next year. So we are including a link to a listing of our webinars, so you can follow that as well and access that information. So I'm going to hand it over to Maria just to wrap up and to give you a few last words, and then she's going to hand over back to Summer. In the meantime, I'm going to be working in the back and sending you all those links I just mentioned. Maria?
Hi, everybody. It's Maria again. I'm coming down off the ceiling. I'm so excited by what I've just learned. And I also have to say that my current obsession with Candy Crush is now totally justified. I know why I do it and why I have so much fun doing it. That was an amazing presentation, Summer. I think there's so much in there. We may have to come back to this in the future. Can I just get the ball rolling with the questions, perhaps, by asking you a question?
Absolutely.
My question is, in the work that you've been doing at Literacy Link South Central, could you just very briefly describe what the learners that you have been working with, what their response has been to these concepts and the use of gamification?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I find particularly fascinating or exciting is when we have an opportunity to run some of these modules with an audience that I would consider traditionally not very engaged, where there's a lack of trust, for a lack of better way of putting it. There is an amazing opportunity that we've seen for people to let their guards down and to open themselves up to trying new things and not even necessarily focusing on what they just learned, but on the excitement they feel about the experience that they're having. They want to go home and they want to tell people about it. You know, the macro photography module that we do is a really neat example of that, because people who have been involved in the test runs of these modules, and we've probably run them, I think now with about 6 different literacy programs, are so excited to send home what they've learned and what they've done. They want to send them by email or by text to their friends and family to show off the skills that they've developed during the module, because it's just so cool. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that we've gotten from the learner response. And then what's really neat is that the next time you pitch something to that exact same group, they're like, oh, you're the guys that let us do this and that, and speak back to the learning, so they can't wait to learn again. Really exciting.
That is exciting, Summer. It's Maria again, and I think it speaks to you know, what we are trying to understand about motivation and persistence, and indeed my hobby horse at the moment, self-efficacy. That idea that I can do something, and because I can do that thing, I want to explore other things, and I want to learn other things. So that's pretty wonderful. So thank you again for that outstanding presentation. I'm going to hand it over to our participants now for more questions. Thank you very much for joining us.
And I'm going to chime in here. We had a bit of a microphone issue with Maria, so she just has to mute her microphone, and things get better when it comes to sound. So I just posed a question. Do you see gamification working for your program? So you're going to wait to see if there's any feedback on that. But overall, we just heard back from Candice, who was saying that this opens the door for so many different ideas and suggestions. And then we really are wondering if there's anything that may work for specific programs that you're working for. If there's any suggestions or thoughts that you have after you participated in this session. So please don't stop. Send us your questions and feedback as we go. I'm just going to read off what Mark has sent us, and it's very informative. My interest in this webinar is that our workforce planning board is doing a feasibility study to see if people's soft skills can be A, assessed, and B, developed through a gaming tool. Poor soft skills are routinely mentioned by employers as a concern. Summer, do you have any feedback or suggestions on that?
That's an excellent question, and I think that's one of those type of things where you need to get the ball rolling by having conversations with other people who are interested in this concept. You know, when we were first talking, this is going a little off topic, but I promise it comes back. When we were first talking about the idea of that basketball course, the Innovate course, we were trying to decide how to take this really cool technology and the drive and motivation we were seeing in learners and use it to help increase their literacy skills. And it took a little bit to get the ball rolling, to start thinking of exactly how we could use this tool. But we got a group of like-minded folks who were all interested in just the concept and thinking about how it could be together in a room and started bantering ideas back and forth. And with that sort of shared passion and shared energy, the ideas just started to flow like crazy, and we really were able to develop some awesome exercises. The team that's been working on this project has worked incredibly hard on it and is accomplishing some really cool stuff. So I guess to Marcus, I would say get together with some folks that feel that this has possibility, share the ideas, and then have coffee together, banter around the possibilities in the same gamified environment we've been talking about all along. A safe place where you can't say something wrong, there are no mistakes, they're just an opportunity to come up with a different way of looking at things.
That sounds really good. And I'm going to go back to a comment we received from Elizabeth, just to make sure. She wanted to clarify that the Kevin Brown from McMaster University developed the applications for learners. So she just wanted to make sure that it's a bit more clear as we are presenting. So I'm mentioning it here in the presentation as well.
Perfect, thank you.
There is also another point from Elizabeth as well. So Elizabeth, I'm just going to go back to your question or comment. For any learning centers that have access to iPad, some great iPad apps for learning that integrate gamification include simplex spelling, spelling free, and fractions and decimals. I'm going to make a note right away that I'm going to copy this information and include in a follow-up email to everyone, so you all will get a copy of this, all of the suggestions from Elizabeth. Summer, do you have any other apps that may come to your mind that you may have used or tried that you found very useful?
I think I'd have to go back to all of the research that we did throughout the project. You know, during today's webinar, what we were looking at were sort of things that were created for the literacy field as opposed to things that already exist that are usable within the literacy field. But it's definitely been something that's talked about very, very frequently throughout our literacy service planning teams in the counties that we work in. So I'm sure that I do have a resource. I can't, unfortunately, produce the information just off the top of my head at the moment.
And there I was very sneaky trying to assume that you will know everything. Of course, that's very understood. Mark also shared with us that they're working with Laurier Brantford, which has a new gaming program. So Mark, if you wouldn't mind just using the chat box to let us know a bit more so we can maybe share with others. Or Summer, maybe do you know a bit more about that program?
No, but I'm excited to hear about it.
Okay, so let's see if Mark will be willing to just send us a bit more information about it through the chat box. In the meantime, it is 3:50. We are going to stick around just for a few more minutes to make sure that you have a chance to ask us any questions, provide feedback, suggestions. Before we wrap up, please don't forget to follow the link I sent you about the feedback form. It is important to us at AlphaPlus and also to Summer to learn from you and find out how we did today, how we can improve, what we can change, or maybe we did great and you really enjoyed it. So it will be really, really good for us to hear your feedback. And I'm going to go back and still check our questions. There is one more comment from Candice, and it is, thank you so much. Yeah, go ahead, Summer.
So sorry. While you're checking on the comments, I just wanted to point out something that I think is kind of fun. So what just happened during this Q&A was the sudden inspiration to start sharing what you know with others. And Marcus, you were talking about what's the best way to hammer out a feasibility study about measuring soft skills using gamification. What you just saw was exactly it. Our group now, those of us who've just attended and participated in this webinar, we're feeling inspired. We've got our gamification hats on. We're ready to go. And now all of a sudden people are thinking, oh, I know this really great app that might work. I know this really great tool. So this is exactly the type of environment that we need to encourage and keep recreating so that we can feed off of each other's energy and incredible skills that are in this particular group of people that we work with.
That's fantastic. And there's one more comment from Candice who is saying, thank you very much. This is really good. And just to give you a bit of background, I'm working with Candice this year with their program. And we were chatting today. So I said, please join us for this session because I thought it would be a really good topic to explore for possibility, even for future projects and ideas that could be developed. And Summer, as you mentioned, when you're presenting things coming to your head, your ideas and suggestions. And for me, I was just noting down saying, the 3D printers, more and more programs are purchasing 3D printers as a way to introduce new skills and new technologies into the program. And I wonder if there is some ideas or suggestions of a way to incorporate that as well as part of the actual learning, whether it's direct gaming or just the idea of doing something or creating something together. That may be a really good idea as well.
Yeah, 3D printing is a wealth of inspiration, I tell you. Anything from the idea of taking an artifact that you cannot physically pick up and look at, or maybe is located on the other side of the world, and 3D printing that artifact so that you can pick it up and look at it and learn from what you see has huge educational possibilities, right? The idea of combining 3D scanning with 3D printing to recreate things that you have right on site, and where 3D printing is going and has already been. You know, when I mentioned earlier that we do post-visit activities when we're running our maker modules, a lot of what we talk about are how could 3D printing be a bad thing? How could it be used in a good way? Could it solve world hunger? Because guess what? You can 3D print vitamin-enriched wafers and create food from what feels like almost nothing. So there are so many really interesting think outside the box things that once people start thinking differently and get excited about the possibilities or want to research to find out where things could go wrong with technology, suddenly there's an inspiration to learn and to share and to debate. And that's exactly what we want in our classrooms.
Perfect. So we just heard back from Mark again, and Mark is clarifying, we expect to hear back from a Laurier Brantford class in December if they think it's possible to develop a tool around two soft skills, teamwork and customer service. We'll then write a report and recommend whether to try to move to creating a tool. All our work is public, so we're glad to share our findings. That's fantastic, Mark. And I think all of us are excited. There's more inspiration coming in, and I'm sure many of us will want to hear more as this is progressing. Summer, I'm going to take it back to you. I'm just waiting to see if there's any more questions, but I think we should start wrapping up and encourage everyone to go back to the feedback for us. Follow the links to some of the resources we shared with you through the handouts. The 3 reports that Summer mentioned are included in the handouts for you to access. Or, as Summer mentioned, you can visit the Literacy Link South Central website to access all this information as well. So Summer, I'm just going to hand it over to you, and thank you so much for spending the time with us today. As we do those webinars, we learn about microphones and speakers and noise that comes through the microphones. So that's also a learning experience for us. But your patience, your support, and your collaboration has been amazing, and we can't thank you enough.
Thank you so much, Monica, and thank you, Maria, who I know is back there too, hiding behind her muted mic. It has been a real pleasure working on this webinar with you guys, and an awesome opportunity to share some of the information that we've been working on and our research with the folks who attended today. So that's who I want to thank next, is everybody who took some time out of their Tuesday afternoon to hang out with us. We're thrilled that you did. We hope that you got something out of the webinar and are feeling inspired and ready to try something new. Please know that we're here for you as a resource. So not only is AlphaPlus available when you have questions, but my contact information was available in the webinar as well. Feel free to drop me a line or pick up the phone and give us a call. Have fun.
Perfect. And I'm just responding to the final comments in the question box. So Mark shared with us the information about the project. Elizabeth from Brand Skills Center is sharing her phone to make sure that everybody can connect. I am responding to those and sharing them with all the participants. I should clarify that Summer, unfortunately, is very likely not seeing those, but I will share all this information with Summer afterwards so she can get the phone numbers and information as well.
Thank you.
Okay, and the final comment is great workshop from Kim. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, everyone. We can start wrapping up. If you would like to leave the session, please feel free to just close the screen, and that's going to disconnect you from our session. All of us will stay here just for a few more minutes. We are not going to let Summer go right away. We are going to keep her so that she can answer any potential questions still coming in. But in the meantime, if you would like to just leave, thank you again for coming, and please, please, please do our feedback form. Okay. So thanks to everyone. We are still getting just thank yous for the question box. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Continue disconnecting. Summer, Maria, thank you for working with me and organizing this session today. Any final feedback, comments, suggestions?
I'm sorry, Summer, I have to unmute my microphone just to say thank you. That was amazing. I am now going to proudly call myself a gamer and explore this. So thank you so much. Have a good afternoon.
All right. So some of the participants are leaving. As I mentioned, we will stick around just for a few more minutes. Summer, how did you feel about using GoToWebinar to present?
Oh, it was good. I've had several opportunities to use GoToWebinar in the past, so the added little bits that I got to do today with having the poll and, you know, not just sitting here and talking while someone else moves the slides was good. So